Harvard did contribute hugely to my political awakening. There is no doubt that that campus is hostile to conservative ideas. My name is Julie Hartman, and this is my story. So I'm born and raised in Los Angeles, California. I'm the youngest of 3 sisters, and I was the loud, bombastic, energetic child that actually always wanted to be a talk show host. So I grew up in a pretty apolitical household. Although we didn't talk about politics, they always talked to me about how lucky I am to be an American. In particular, my dad would always tell me, you don't know what it's like to live in other countries. People have really bleak situations, just in a way that you can't imagine. So that was sort of the extent to which I was introduced to politics. I wrote in 8th grade in my diary that I wanted to go to Harvard, so I guess that was the school. I wanted to go to a university that had the pedigree and the aroma of tradition that comes with a almost 400 years old school. So I came into Harvard as a freshman, and growing up in Los Angeles and attending liberal schools, I considered myself to be a liberal. So I just sort of agreed even with a lot of the ideas on campus. The summer of 2020 was when my life completely changed. I was sent home that March of 2020 due to the COVID lockdowns. I was lonely and depressed and feeling anxious. And in May of 2020, when that horrible video came out of George Floyd's death, I was just astounded by the crusade against law enforcement. Everyone, it seemed, succumbed to these radical ideas that if you're white, then you are inherently racist, and that we all have to engage in these Maoist self-criticism sessions for our privilege. And I remember thinking, if this is the left, this is not who I am. And so one night, I remember this night so vividly, I went on Google and I just typed in, what do conservatives think about police? The first thing that popped up was PragerU. And of course, thanks to PragerU, I was introduced to a thinker called Dennis Prager. I like to say that PragerU really introduced me to conservative ideas, but I think that Dennis's book on America really solidified my conservatism. It is crazy for me to say now, but prior to reading Dennis's book, I had never heard of the term e pluribus unum, which is our national credo, out of many one. And Dennis's book, as corny as it may sound, made me feel so unbelievably grateful that I had the good fortune to be born as an American. And I finished the book feeling an enormous sense of responsibility to protect and defend this extraordinary and delicately calibrated system that we have. Then I started, of course, listening to Dennis's radio show and consuming a lot of his content. I just decided to email him. And I remember sitting on the couch, writing this email, just thanking him for his influence on my thinking. And of course, I thought, oh, he's never going to read this, let alone respond. I did put in the subject line, though. I played up the Harvard thing. I wrote, Harvard student turns conservative. So I thought maybe I had a chance of him clicking on it. And miraculously, he saw the email. And he, in 3 days, responded to me. And he said, Julie, you mentioned that you're from Los Angeles. Would you want to come in sometime and sit in and just watch me for an hour? So I said, of course. That next week, I meet him. I'm sitting there as he's recording. During commercial breaks, we're chit-chatting and we really hit it off. And he turns to me and he goes, Julie, your story is really fascinating. And I think that my listeners might like to hear it. Would you want to be on air sometime? And I thought that he was referring to a week later. So I said, sure, we can find a time. I'll schedule it. And I'll never forget, he rolled up his sleeve and he looked at his watch and he goes, actually, we're back on air in 2 minutes. Would you want to go on now? So I did. The next morning, I wake up and a video of that appearance was posted on YouTube. And within, I think, about a day, it got 10,000 views. And it was just so jarring for me to sit there and see my face and see people commenting And of course, the video circulated around Harvard. And that sort of launched me into the most painful 2 weeks of my life. I had several close friends of mine give me a really hard time for going onto Dennis's show. It sounds so silly to say now, but at the time, it really felt catastrophic going public with my conservatism. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, people are going to Google me, they're going to see this video, I'm never going to get hired, no one's ever going to be my friend, I'm never going to get married. When many of the closest people in my life were telling me that I had truly done something bigoted and wrong by going on this platform, it meant something to me because I care about those people. They didn't take issue with what I said. They took issue with the fact that I said that I appreciated Dennis Prager's work and that I talked with him. But of course, that's just their Pavlovian response. Anything that is conservative must be bigoted. There's no other way to think of it. Harvard did contribute hugely to my political awakening because there is no doubt that that campus is hostile to conservative ideas. And Dennis was so gracious during that time of my life to call me and lend a hand of support. Let me tell you, if you want to know who your real friends are, you should go on the Dennis Prager show and have it go public. That was actually such a blessing for me because it showed me who really should be in my life and who shouldn't be. And just like other college campuses, if you dare to speak conservative ideas, you can count on the fact that you are going to be called certain names. And I'm so much happier now that I'm public and open about this because it's who I am. Dennis and I launched a show of our own called Dennis and Julie that started out of my senior year dorm room. So talk about being public. Everyone on campus knew that I was doing that. And at the end of senior year, I actually gave a speech at the Memorial Chapel as part of their senior speech program, where I talked about the anti-Americanism on campus and how we have allowed these corrosive, destructive ideas to take hold, and all of us just remain silent, like they aren't insane. I talked about how the Oregon Department of Education has asserted that finding one right answer in math is white supremacist, and we remain silent. The American Medical Association has stated that they want to remove gender from birth certificates, and we remain silent. Black Lives Matter founders have embezzled millions and millions of dollars of donation money to buy mansions in Los Angeles, and we remain silent. And I said, we should not lie to ourselves or to others that a large reason that we remain silent is that we see personal and professional advantages in doing so. And that's what it is. I actually think that a lot of people know the direction that this country is going in is insane, but they don't want to take a stand. I completely understand why there are many people who are afraid to speak out. There is a lot of discrimination against conservatives nowadays, and not just against conservatives, but people who, even in a small way, may be sympathetic to conservative values. It's real. Many people cannot talk about what they really believe because they would get fired from their jobs and they have to put food on the table. What I would say, though, especially to younger people who may not be in that position, who have their professional lives ahead of them, I think that we are truly in a dire moment. If people do not speak out, we will lose this country. And I think that we are way closer to losing this country than we think. We have no choice. We have to speak up now. I am so much happier now in my life after I've made this whole public conservative career of mine. I found such an incredible value system that has become so integral to my worldview and I think has made me a better, more principled person. Because conservatism is about conserving something, that is the principles of the American founding, it requires you to identify your values and your principles and stick to them. In life, it is so helpful to know what you believe in, know what you want, and try to preserve it. And that's what conservatism has taught me. Thanks for watching this video. To keep PragerU videos free, please consider making a tax-deductible donation.